Mm, mm. Ugh, I had the heck happened. I'm still here. Hey, thing won't work. Hey, guys, gals, and all those outside and in between. And wait, already covered Silent Hill 1 and 2 I did last year, so looks like we had to cover Silent Hill 3. Maybe that's what I need to do to finish this. Is that stinking rabbit?
Now that you're gone, my supply fell through. You gladly gave me everything you had.
Silent Hill 3. The third Silent Hill. Shut up, nerd. The Silent Hill after 2. While Silent Hill 1 was developed without much oversight, and Silent Hill 2 had a little more oversight but was heavily developer led, Silent Hill 3 had a lot more corporate interference, with Silent Hill 4 actually being developed around the same time. 3 and 4 released in a very close proximity compared to 1 and 2, and as such, it's clear to see that this became not just a game to Konami, but a franchise. Silent Hill, well, began to be pushed out the door. However, how does this third outing actually hold up? And more importantly, where the heck is ZZ? Because she always shows up right about now.
So, according to the map, the chart keeps fluctuating between West Virginia and Maine. Huh? Oh, wait, I know exactly where that idiot went off to. This is gonna be a pain in my butt.
While Silent Hill 1 followed Harry Mason, a man who can't keep track of his daughter or the road, and Silent Hill 2 chronicled the mental torment of James Sunderland over his past sins, which somehow manifested as geometry. Silent Hill 3 follows Heather, a teenage girl. I can understand a teenage girl, but I draw a line at the name Heather. So, turning teenage girls into horror protagonists, despite it being new for Silent Hill, was actually nothing new in the wider scheme of things. For example, if we're looking at movies, most slashers feature the trope of the final girl. Think Halloween's Laurie Strode or Scream's Cindy Prescott, and even in the realm of games, Clock Tower had Jennifer Simpson. The series that Silent Hill was directly created to counter, Resident Evil, 1 and 0 both featured a younger character named Rebecca Chambers, who was 18, but same difference. And Fatal Frame featured Miku Hinasaki. There are a lot of other female horror protagonists, but I kind of just narrowed it down to teenagers, and the ones that came out before are around the same time as Silent Hill 3. I've been putting wokeness in video games since before you were born. 15-year-old in my comments. Heather is the first true female protagonist of the series. Sure, Born of a Wish, an expansion for SH2 released before this, but come on, this is a full game. Speaking of Heather, oh my word, girl, I love her. As an early 2000s kid, this outfit just screams that era to me. The skirt, the sweater, the boots, and especially the vest all feel oddly nostalgic. It makes me just want to hang out at the mall and wait, it's 2023. Malls are dying. And now that is the scariest and saddest thing of this video, realizing that everything that I once knew is slowly disappearing. Outside of Heather's style, her position as a teenage girl opens up a lot of horror opportunities. There's a reason why this is a recurring theme within horror, as Silent Hill preys upon the deepest fears of those who enter. And for Heather, it's a fear of well, adulthood. See, for me, that would be musicals, VTubers, and
Hi.
wait, Maisie,
Yep.
how the heck did you?
Just look at the sign over there and you should know why I know where you are.
Yeah, the sign over there says Corpor.
Can you read corporate? It says corporate. And I have to deal with your complaints.
Oh no.
Yep.
That would explain the stupid outfits lately.
Yeah, you need to hit the demands or else we're gonna keep forcing you to do this.
Let's get this over with, shall we? Anyway, Silent Hill 3. While Silent Hill 1 and 2 start in the titular town, Silent Hill 3 starts in an amusement park. Here we see, I have my eye on you, you little gremlin. Depending on how much you know how to play this game, you die at some points. So that was Silent Hill 3. I'm sorry, that joke's even funnier the second time I tell it. Ugh. So, Heather wakes up in the mall and realizes that what just happened was a dream. She decides that she should go call her dad, and on the way is harassed by a detective, as was common in malls. What? I doubt that a lot of people who are younger have actively gone to a mall as often, so I can probably lie about this and get away with it. YouTube, please don't flag this for misinformation. But the mall, after she escapes him, is filled with enemies, and now's as good a time as ever to talk about the combat. It's the same as Silent Hill 1 and 2. You still auto aim and have some advanced mechanics, but the melee. Oh, the melee. Oh, Mrs. Kneecaps, my beloved.
Sharp, what am I looking at? No, 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 no.
I forgot you were here. They added in one new mechanic to this game, and that is the ability to block, which I didn't use too often, but trust me, this makes a difference. The ability to block in a Silent Hill game is appreciated. It feels very smooth and just great to be able to say, you know what, I don't want to get hit, and press a button. And just like what I said last time about the combat itself, it requires timing. If you miss this, you are going to be hit, and that is your fault. In general, though, the combat in Silent Hill 3 just feels smooth and more polished than anything that came before. The gunplay feels incredibly precise, I think partially because of the graphics being better, so you can actually look at what Heather's doing. And also, the best mechanic that ever existed in one of these games is back. The curb stomp. I missed it. I missed it so much. Well, that was pretty great, but also pretty graphic. This game by far has more blood than the rest of the series, so take that as your warning. That, and you can easily see it while we're going throughout the mall. I touched on it earlier, but speaking of graphics, oh, wow, this game looks good. Keep in mind that this is a 20-year-old piece of software, and look at it, it's stunning. I seriously cannot believe this could run on a PS2, and if you see frame rate chugging and things like that, that's because I'm playing the PC port, which I only slightly modded to have a better resolution, and, well, it still looks great. Keep in mind that this is also the first game in the series to completely remove pre-rendered cutscenes, a staple before, in favor of in-engine ones completely. Due to the smoother animations and just everything about this game being polished to a T, I think they made the right call. Also, there's the lighting. I mean, as I said, 20 years old. Just look at this. Rant over. So,
Hey, wait, what's going on? Where is everybody? Those weird monsters?
They've come to witness the beginning. The rebirth of paradise, despoiled by mankind.
What are you talking about?
Don't you know? Your power is needed.
How should I know?
I am Claudia.
So what?
Remember me, and your true self as well. Also, that which you must become. The one who will lead us to paradise with blood-stained hands.
Claudia, right? Did you do all this?
Silent Hill 3 does have a decent plot. I'm not going to really get into what Claudia says here just because, I like to save this stuff for the end. But more importantly, after this, the mall transforms into the nightmare world, and we have our first boss fight, which, how do I talk about this? Oh no. Silent Hill, at least during its golden age, created a mostly unique repertoire of enemies for every single entry. While Silent Hill 1 had a lot of enemies with religious undertones, which fits with Alessa, who is the person responsible for pretty much all the events of the Otherworld in that game, and Silent Hill 2 has monsters based off of, spoilers, but James' psychological problems, and, well, Silent Hill 3 is no different. The monsters here are based on Heather's internal fears as a teenager. A fear of growing up. A lot of the monsters here have hints of self-doubt and body image, or look, well, I'm gonna assume most of my audience is adult here. You know what it looks like. And if you don't, I'm not gonna be the one to have this conversation with you. Seriously, if you're below 18 and watching this video, be prepared for some stuff like this. Silent Hill 3 is by far the most on the nose of the original 3, in my opinion, when it comes to what these monsters are about, but that doesn't make them any less effective. That also goes for the Otherworld, because every single one of the original Silent Hills slightly variates the Otherworld. For example, Silent Hill 2's feels like you're drowning, Silent Hill 3's feels like the world itself is alive and in constant state of pain and flux. Like puberty. So, after the boss fight, Heather begins to take the subway home, with a few complications here and there, and this leads to one of my least favorite sequences in this game. Not because it's bad, it's phenomenal, but it made me feel claustrophobia. And I'm not claustrophobic. Fun fact, you can actually jump off the back of this train for a unique death sequence, which is a mechanic that was added in this game, and this gives the developers the opportunity to be way more brutal. And honestly, if there's any other ones of note, you're gonna have to find them yourself, because I don't want to show a whole bunch of these. Play this game. Anyway, after we go through a few other places, we meet an oddball named Vincent, who's not like other cultists.
Don't forget it, okay? I'm on your side.
So you say. But how do I know you're not with her?
Her? You mean Claudia? Please don't lump me together with her. She was totally brainwashed by that crazy old hag. Well, I guess crazy old hag is a bit harsh. She is your mother, after all.
My mother? What do you mean?
You don't remember? So Harry didn't tell you anything. I guess he hid the truth to keep you on his side, eh? That figures. He's a pretty sneaky guy.
Don't talk about my dad like that!
Sorry. I apologize. Please, calm down.
How do you know my father anyway?
I know everything. I know about your past, too.
Then tell me what's going on.
You don't know even that?
That's why I'm asking. If you know everything, then tell me how I can put an end to this.
Not yet. Why not enjoy yourself a bit longer?
Enjoy? I feel like I'm going crazy.
Well, I'm not like other YouTubers. I'm an idiot.
Yep.
Wait.
You can't take that back, Sharp.
Anyway, as he said, our father's name is Harry, and if you've been listening to the dialogue in this game, you've probably caught on by now, but in case you haven't, go play the game. It's more than worth your time. But, for those of you who still want to continue, her father is Harry Mason. And if that name is not ringing any bells, here's a hint. I covered his game 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it was supposed to be a week ago, I know, but these episodes take longer to make than I thought they would. Speaking of which, if you want to be informed of when these videos come out, there is a subscribe button and there's this instrument of some kind right next to it. I don't know, I'm reading a sheet off from this corporate office that says I have to read it. Harry Mason, the protagonist of Silent Hill 1, ended that game by adopting a daughter. That daughter is who we're playing as. We're somehow tied into all this. The curse didn't end when Harry left the foggy town of Silent Hill. It continued and followed him. As I mentioned, Heather is a part of Alessa's soul given life, not unlike Cheryl. Although I don't think it's the same body, because we see at the end of Silent Hill 1 that is clearly a baby and Cheryl clearly is old enough to walk. Now, Harry did love Heather. He loved his kid. There were nights where it was hard. There were nights where Harry really questioned if it was even his child. But at the end of the day, he would do anything for her. While Harry was far from perfect, I mean, he's definitely made quite a few mistakes. He wound up in Silent Hill at some point after all. Harry also did a pretty good job.
Dad, it's me. Yeah. Sorry I didn't call sooner. Yeah, I guess I was. Anyway, I'm coming home now. Oh, I didn't get that thing you asked me to. Okay. Okay, I will. I love you too, Dad.
You can tell from Heather's conversations with him over the phone that she clearly has a lot of love for her father. He might not be perfect, but if he doesn't tell her something, it's probably for a reason, right? So it makes sense why Heather just wants to go home. She's scared. And that's the one place where none of this will reach her, right? After all, Harry's there. Her dad's there. And if there's one place that's safe, it's home. Heather opens the door, ready to say hello to her father. She sees him napping on a chair in the living room.
Dad, I'm home.
She walks up to him,
Listen, something really
But-
crazy's going on. I think we should...
he doesn't respond.
Dad? Dad? No! No!
A trail of blood is seen leading to the door. Heather walks up and is met by
He's
Claudia.
the one who killed your father. I merely gave the order. So, what will you do? I'll be waiting where all begins. In the town of Silent Hill.
At this point, we're forced to fight the monster that killed our dad, the aptly named missionary. And, well, this isn't necessarily a hard boss fight, it's just a little annoying. You have to try to shoot this thing in the back, then it will fall over, and then you can just pump shotgun shells into it or kick it until it eventually dies. But we end up going back downstairs once the fight's over, and here we notice we're not alone, as the detective is waiting downstairs for us.
I don't know what to say.
Then don't say anything. I'm fine, so just get out of here and leave me alone already!
Calm down.
Calm down? How am I supposed to do that? My father is dead! He's murdered! Get out! This is all your fault! If it weren't for you,
I'm sorry.
then go!
If it'll make you feel better, I will. Is he okay like this?
What else can I do? There's no one here to give him a decent burial. I'm sorry, Dad.
What do you do now?
I'm going to Silent Hill.
What's in Silent Hill?
I don't know.
Do you think it's safe?
Of course it isn't. I don't know what kind of hell is waiting for me there, but I've got no other choice. I don't care about God or paradise. If that's what she believes, then fine. But she won't get away with what she did. When I find her, I'll kill her myself.
Revenge doesn't solve anything.
Maybe not, but that's what I'm going to do.
So, this section's fairly straightforward. After finding out about our dad's passing, Heather decides that she's going to go to Silent Hill and kill Claudia herself. Douglas, despite disagreeing with her motivations, decides to go with her mainly because, well, leaving a teenage girl alone on a murder quest is not exactly a good idea. He tells her that he does have one lead on where they could possibly go to try to solve this whole ordeal, and that is the hospital within Silent Hill. This lead, however, came from Vincent. It's the best we have, so it's what we're gonna work with. But I want to take a brief aside to talk about Heather just one more time. See, one thing I love about Heather is how much we find out about her through flavor text, or just how she interacts with the world. For example, one of my favorites is the stun gun, the item description revealing that it was a gift from Harry, showing that Harry was a fairly overprotective parent, at least from Heather's perspective. We also have some more subtle references. For example, you can actually find out that Heather used to smoke through a few interactions. if you interact with an ashtray in one of the buildings, she essentially says, "Yeah, I quit that a good while ago." But there's a lot about Heather that I just really love because you have to find it out. They made a character so interesting that I'm actually reading through the dialogue that I usually just skip in games. And I love that. I love the fact that Heather brings her own unique feel to the Silent Hill formula. Hold on to that idea because it will come back in a little bit, but I just felt this would be an appropriate time to talk about it because Heather's about to finally reveal what I've been saying this whole time. I might have said it before she did because it's kind of obvious, and we as the audience would likely have the information of Silent Hill 1. But here she just outright confirms it. Yes, she is the daughter that Harry was given at the end of Silent Hill 1.
But in the end, that god was killed by a single person. My father, Harry Mason.
Anyway, with all the emotional stuff out of the way for now, we stop at a motel in Silent Hill and are pretty much told, hey, you have to go down to the hospital because Leonard, Claudia's father, has some kind of artifact that you need to undo all this weird shenanigans going on. Look, I don't really know how to explain the whole cosmic plot of Silent Hill. All you need to know is that Heather, being part of Alessa, is somehow related to the rebirth of the god Samael. So, after entering this section, well, it's definitely creepy. This is a hospital that we have seen before. It's the same one that was in Silent Hill 2, as shown by a few of the locations repeating, with little Easter eggs. But, more importantly, this game just uses this hospital well. It's creepy and unnerving, the stuff that you find here, especially from the perspective of Heather, since creepy stuff that happens in the background, or creepy letters, yeah, that's gonna mess with me. You also get a machine gun. Okay, time to explain something really quickly. A lot of people like to rat on this game for being a lot more action-heavy than the first two. And to an extent, I do agree. This game has a little bit more action. However, one thing that people always point to is the submachine gun. And I don't think the submachine gun actually ruins this experience. Mainly because of what it replaced. See, in the original Silent Hill games, there was the hunting rifle. Silent Hill 1 and 2 both had 3 main projectile weapons. Your handgun, your shotgun, and your hunting rifle. However, Heather is a teenage girl. She's not exactly built the same way as someone like James or Harry. So while she might not be a novice with guns, I always have been under the assumption that Harry taught her how to use guns in some way, it's not exactly likely that she'd be able to use a hunting rifle at the same consistency. Mainly because those take a lot broader shoulders, and for anyone who's shot one, you need to usually put the butt of the gun up against your body so that the impact doesn't knock you over. And for Heather, a submachine gun just makes sense. Like, a really, really light submachine gun, yeah, I can get that. That actually really works for her. Our boss fight is Leonard, Claudia's father, and this one's really not too notable aside from look at this water, look at this. This is from the year 2000, and I'm sorry if this sounds weird to people, but do you have any idea how hard water is to animate and how good this looks for the time? Like, dear lord. I know some of the textures haven't aged well, but this game still looks stunning to me in a lot of ways. And the boss fight itself is just okay. The atmosphere is decent, but it really gives me the same vibes as that one thing in Amnesia that everyone talks about, so when we get back to the motel, we're met by Vincent, who tells us that Douglas walked right into a trap in the amusement park. This is the exact same plot point from Silent Hill 1, I swear, but I kind of think it fits, mainly because this game is all about the past haunting Heather, so a repeat of a part of the plot of Silent Hill 1 really does make sense. We enter the amusement park and, oh, look, we're right back where we started. After we enter and do a few things different so that we don't get run over by a roller coaster like an idiot, the player is treated to a cutscene with Douglas. At this point, we actually find out that he was hired by Claudia. Claudia deceived him by telling him that it was a kidnapping case. Harry had kidnapped Heather, and let's just say Douglas does not really like being tricked.
You're going to kill me? Is it really so easy for you?
I've done it before.
Then I truly do pity you.
Anyway, catching back up with Heather, we are actually going through the amusement park at a decent pace. It turns out that we did survive jumping off the side of the roller coaster. I'm not going to do the same joke 3 times. It's not as funny the third. It only works twice. However, after we go through this section, we eventually hit a haunted house with just the best announcer of all time.
The Borley Haunted Mansion. We're so glad you came. Please come inside and look around. When you feel you're ready, then go through the door.
Please let this guy announce the next Smash Bros. After escaping the mansion, we reunite with Douglas, who,
You're late.
welp, is
Are you
not
hurt?
in the best of shape.
I can't move my right leg. I think it's broken.
Nice. After a couple more puzzles, we enter a carousel. Here we are forced to kill a whole bunch of horses, which, as someone who is terrified of horses for some reason, okay, that's fine. And, well, here's where it gets a little bit more weird. We're forced to fight Alessa. Kind of. But all you need to know is this is kind of a mirror match. This character first gets our knife, which, okay, fair enough. Then it gets our handgun, which, I get it, reference to Sybil Bennett. Also, characters wielding handguns in the fights is not uncommon in Silent Hill. Next, she gets a metal pipe, which this is Silent Hill. That's the iconic weapon of Silent Hill, if you ask me. And then finally, the submachine gun. Honestly, I think I enjoyed this boss fight way more than I should. Is it challenging? No, not really. If you know how to block, this is probably one of the easiest boss fights in the game, since you're just waiting to bait an attack out, blocking it, and then hitting her. Usually I don't even use guns in this fight, because I just find going at her with the katana is way more fun. We eventually beat her, walk through a hallway, and...
How did you get here? It was Vincent, wasn't it? He led you here. When will he cease his meddling? But it's just as well. Luring you here also serves my purposes.
Checkmate.
Not yet. The time is not yet at hand. The time when all will be forgiven their sins. When the paradise we have long dreamed for will arrive. After the judgment and atonement, an eternity of bliss. Oh, Alessa, the world you wanted is nearly here.
That's not what I want.
Not you. Alessa, your true self.
But I am Alessa. My little Claudia, my dear sweet sister.
Alessa, is it you? Oh, how I've missed you.
I don't need another world. It's fine the way it is.
But you said it yourself. The world must first be cleansed with fire.
But that's not what I want now.
Alessa, don't you want happiness? Have you become blind to all the hopeless suffering in the world? We all need God's salvation.
Listen, suffering is a fact of life. Either you learn how to deal with that or you go under. You can stay in in your own little dream world. But you can't keep hurting other people. Besides, I'll never forgive you for hurting my father.
I wish only for the salvation of mankind. But for that to happen, the world must first be remade. And for that, we need God.
You self-righteous witch! No one asked you to help!
God is growing within you. You despise me, don't you?
You're damned right I do!
That's good.
At the end, we enter Alessa's room from Silent Hill 1, which is both a nice callback and also makes sense since the church section's very esoteric and mental compared to a lot of the rest of Silent Hill 3. It feels a lot more abstract. There's a lot of it that I begin to question the more and more I go in, how much of this is the other world and how much of this is the actual building itself. But I digress. After finishing this short puzzle with tarot cards, we finally get to catch up with Claudia and Vincent.
Although, I admit that this atrocious scenery is all yours.
If you continue to get in my way,
Did you kill me? Well... Well... The guest of honor has arrived. Let's get this party started. Heather, go ahead and kill this crazy bitch.
Bet.
This demon who claims to speak for God. The time has come. You can kill her now.
you'll go to hell!
But I wanted to kill the Tumblr sexy man. So, eventually, Heather goes into labor. I don't know how to explain this. I don't think this is how pregnancy is supposed to work. But the god that has been implanted inside her is nearing the time of its rebirth. However, there's nothing we can do to stop it. Or is there? See, one thing that Heather always keeps on her is a pendant that her father Harry gave to her. So, in a way, Harry's final act of love is this. Heather takes the pendant, consumes the item inside, which is revealed to be Aglafatus, the same thing that was used in Silent Hill 1, and we live. But Claudia is transformed into some giant demon thing which we're forced to fight. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is the worst boss fight in the entirety of the Silent Hill series. It's just bad. It's absolutely abysmal. Not only is the boss design a little bit too weird for even my taste, but even beyond that, I'm just gonna be blunt here. This boss has way too much health, its attacks are fairly hard to avoid, and it requires you to hoard a whole bunch of resources for the end of the game. On one hand, I do think this fits thematically, the whole idea of having to prepare for some ancient god to come back, but on the other hand, the other Silent Hill games all had bosses that I think did a better job with the whole premise of this final boss as your mental torment. This just feels like, oh yeah, we're doing the same thing as Silent Hill 1. And with Silent Hill 1, at least with how unfair that boss was, if you used up every single bullet in your guns, it would just die after a bit. With this one, if you're on certain difficulties, it actually heals. So, unless you're on your second run and have very powerful specific weapons, this is probably the hardest boss fight within the entirety of the original 3 Silent Hill games. And not in a fun way. It's just draining, it's boring, and feels kind of unfair. And once we finish, unlike with Silent Hill 1 and 2, I'm gonna be kinda honest, the ending of Silent Hill 3 is just okay. It's just Heather walking up to Douglas and making a joke, but I'm not going to play through this boss fight again just to show you that 30 seconds. I don't do that much. But this sour ending aside, what do I think of the game? Silent Hill 3 is the perfect example of what happens when you take a horror game and go as far as you can with it. If you ask me, this is probably one of the best character examinations I've ever seen through the medium of horror. While some might argue that James's journey in Silent Hill 2 delves a little deeper into, well, who James is, I would argue that the one with Heather covers a little more area and feels more comprehensive. Also, this plot just feels like it can really, really stick with more people. While, yes, the idea of being guilty over something, or those intrusive thoughts that tell you to do terrible things ultimately winning over, is kind of terrifying, what I found scary about Silent Hill 3 is just how close to home some of this felt. Feeling like your whole life isn't chosen by you. Like someone else is pulling the strings and you're kind of just along for the ride. Sometimes other people think they're entitled to control your life, to control what you are and what you can do. But at the end of the day, it should be your choice. What I really like about Heather as a protagonist is that she's one of the most independent characters within the series. What do I mean by that? Well, while Harry is venturing through the town of Silent Hill because his daughter's missing, and James is going to Silent Hill because he got a letter from his long-dead wife, with Heather, it's a personal quest for revenge. One she succeeds in. But ultimately, Heather's journey is more so about personal growth than the first two. While Silent Hill 1 and 2 have more somber endings, the one thing that's always stuck with me about Silent Hill 3 is that it's happy. It's showing that despite all this trauma, despite all the terrible things that Silent Hill can do, ultimately, after this game ends, for Heather, life continues. And she can handle it. After all, she's Heather Mason. Or, as she now wants to be called, Cheryl. Her taking the name that her father gave her, in my opinion, furthers this. Mainly because going by the name Cheryl is number one, her choice, and number two, her saying, I don't view myself as Alessa. I view myself as Harry's daughter. While it's not explicitly stated, it's heavily believed that the name change was partially because Harry didn't want the cult to find Heather. So it's easier to name her Heather than keep her name as Cheryl and have to keep running every few years. But if I'm being completely honest, I really do love this series. And it's kind of bittersweet playing Silent Hill 3 because after this, Team Silent only made one more game, Silent Hill 4. Which, while I do like The Room, I feel like the Silent Hill series has never really hit the heights of the first 3 games again. While yes, there are games that are still great, there's something about these that just sticks with me. But maybe a longer video on how the series works as a whole would be a good idea for another time. So, at least for now, that's Silent Hill 3. So, we'll be out any moment now, right?
Yeah, we're done.
Right?
Plenty of
Lizzie,
things,
what do you know that I
actually.
don't?
Plenty of things, actually.
Fine. Until next time, guys, gals, and all those outside and in between,
Yeah,
this is
yeah, we're
SharpZ
totally
signing
done.
off.